As the title of the video probably already suggests, the focus of today's reading vlog is Riverbay Road Men's Dormitory, the first volume by 𝕤𝕠𝕔𝕚𝕬. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to read any of this author's works in full before they started getting picked up by 7seas, so I'm grateful that quite a bit of them did get picked up. This is one of the few that happens to be a modern series. I believe 𝕤𝕗𝕬𝕝 Rebirth is another one that will be coming out soon. But back to focusing on Riverbay Road Men's Dormitory. This is a short 2-volume series, and by the time this video goes up, I believe the second volume will be due for release. So what's it about? This is about a multi-millionaire gay man called Zhang Yuan, who has everything going on for him except the fact that he wants to make a career change because he realizes that writing a very good story is something that he wants to do with his life. And after putting together this story, he decides to take a manuscript to a contact that he knows, only to be met with the harsh criticism that his writing felt inauthentic and out of touch. So in order to fix this flaw in his writing, he decides to open up his villa to other gay men that can serve as kind of research subjects for him in his writing. I'm going to elaborate a little bit further on the plot of the series or of this first volume in my 100-page check-in, but for now, I guess we can just chill and read together. Okay, so this is where this book club kit makes a comeback. I won this as part of a giveaway on Instagram, and it's just such a cool, tiny, but powerful kit. So it has like mini cards with questions that I was hoping I could use for this book, just because they're pretty interesting questions. And then it has cards for like book charts to use if you're actually in a book club, a die that you can roll to determine whose turn it is to ask the questions, as well as a mini, you can call it an hourglass, because the timer on this is only 60 seconds. I don't know if I can actually answer any of the questions in 60 seconds, but I've already picked some of them to answer for this first check-in. So I'm about 100 pages into the book at the moment, but we've met the main character as well as all the tenants that are going to be living in Riverbay Road with him. So our main character is Jang-Yu-won, and although he had some unfortunate circumstances in his family growing up, he had a pretty well-to-do life. Like, he came from a somewhat wealthy family, and his parents are nowhere to be found. He was raised by his grandparents, and they're dead now, so he's almost like an orphan by himself with no family. Although he did inherit quite the amount of wealth from his grandparents, and he has just had a really easy life. After his grandparents passed, he could have done just well by himself with the money that they left behind for him, but he decided to go into film production and was able to get a referral from his grandfather's friend. And again, by lucky circumstances, the director that he was training under got caught in a scandal, and he was able to take over his critically acclaimed project, which launched him into stardom within that field. And I don't think I've been able to process what exactly made him make the switch, but maybe he just wasn't getting challenged enough as a director, so he decided to try writing a story for himself. He wanted to move into writing novels. He wrote a novel, and he took it to a publisher to get his opinion on it, and the publisher basically told him that his characterization was out of touch because the characters don't feel like real human beings. And he advised him that in order to write characters that are compelling, he needs to be able to interact with other people and understand what they struggle with. And that was what gave him the bright idea to get some tenants at Riverbay Road. So he put out the listing for the apartment and got 4 tenants. So like I said, we've met all 4 of them. Very interesting people, very distinct characters. I feel like I relate to every single one of them in different ways, including the main character. They all seem to have very different motivations, and not in the sense that they have a goal that they're striving for in life that is very admirable, but motivations in the sense that they're all lying about something, and they all have something that they're trying to get by moving into this apartment. So that is a very interesting aspect of the story. And if I had to say what the theme of the story is so far, I would say that this is about a man that has had a pretty easy life, and by interacting with other people, even though his original intention in trying to do that was so he could write a novel, he's going to gain so much more from opening up his apartment or his house for this opportunity to gain insight on his novel. It's going to change his life in a way that he probably wasn't expecting. The writing is quite different from what I read from Legend of Exorcism, because that is more of a historical setting, and you have like a fantastical, like it's a fantasy story, and this is just a modern setting, like a slice of life modern setting that is following different characters within the story, although you do have the main character Jang-Yu-won. But the pacing has been really nice, very easy to follow, It's funny. We haven't really got into the emotional parts, but there are some of the characters that do have very relatable, in a sad way, realities, like working class people who just work day to day, but there's almost no end to their struggle. So little things like that that just tug at your heartstrings, and to be able to do all of that within 100 pages, I think is just great storytelling. And I've completely forgotten that I was meant to be using these cards. I'd assume that by this point I've already explained the title of the book, but the title of the book is Riverbay Road Men's Dormitory, and we know why it's called that, because that's where the main character and all the tenants that he got to live with him are living. Was I hooked into the storyline immediately, or did it take time? I think I was hooked immediately. You got a pretty good introduction to your main character, and all of the setting that I said about him deciding to switch to storytelling and being told that his characterization was out of touch. I think that happened within the first two chapters, between 1 to 2 chapters, I want to say. So some of the main themes of the book, I already explained that he's in pursuit of something, but I think he's going to gain something more from his choice to open up his apartment to these people. The pacing has been pretty okay, and I've kind of talked about what I thought of the main character. So this will be my only check-in before I come back for my final review on the book, but it's going pretty well so far. So yeah, I already have some other questions picked out for my final review. We'll see if I actually remember to use the cards, but I'm going to keep reading now and hope that I can finish this in the next 2 days or so. So yeah, I will see you then. Bye. You get bored of this angle. Okay, so I'm done with reading Riverbay Road Men's Dormitory. I just finished it last night. I did enjoy it, although I haven't taken it through the 𝕐𝕆 system because I just finished it last night, and I'm not going to be taking it through that system in this video. If I do take it through the system before I upload this video, I'll put the results in the description. But right now it feels like either a 3.5 or a 4-star, or maybe somewhere in between. General thoughts on the book as a whole. Zhang Yuan as a character, like I said, it was going to gain so much more from opening up his house to all of these other people, and you can definitely see that he thought at some point in his life that he was totally fine with being a recluse, but as he starts to interact with his tenants a lot more, you can see that there are things that he becomes aware of that he has been missing in his life, and he adjusted to living with them very, very well. There was at no point in the book where it felt like he was uncomfortable with their presence in this house, and just a lot more lighthearted and playful parts of him that we likely never would have gotten without that opportunity where he opened up his home to them. Similarly for the other tenants, although they had their different motivations when they moved into the dorm, you can see how interacting with each other helps them to realize that there are certain things in their life that they have been missing and maybe they were unaware of, or they just weren't ready to admit to themselves just yet. And you can see those different things coming to life for each one of them. I loved all their interactions, and I think there's only one tenant so far that I don't feel necessarily connected to, and that will be, oh crap, I didn't bring my notes. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it's Chang Jinxing. He's like a playboy type character, and most of the information that has been provided about him so far shows him in that light. Actually, the character name guide in the back does a great job of giving you a very decent summary of each of the characters in this novel so far. So the main character, Zhang Yuan, he's the owner of number 7 Riverbay Road. So I'm reading from the back of the book. He used to be a film director, and he dreams of being a writer, and he decides to rent out his spare room so he can spend time around people in real life to make his writing more realistic. The first tenant in the house was Yan Jun, and he is an office worker who is taking care of his niece because his brother and sister-in-law passed away. So the last part of that character is a little bit of a spoiler, although I don't see how much it's actually going to change the series for you. And his niece is Yang Yuchi. She's usually called 𝕬𝕬𝕬𝕬, and she calls everyone in the house Papa. She is so adorable, and I just love what her presence brings to the book as a whole. Then the next tenant is 𝕤𝕚𝕟𝕕. He is an unsuccessful live streamer, the youngest of the tenants at 22, and he is the only one who identifies himself as a bottom in the house. Then you have Chun Hong. He is a 29-year-old fitness trainer struggling to find clients after having to close his gym. I think he's the oldest of the tenants. The fourth tenant is Chang Jinxing. This is the playboy that I was talking about. He is a self-proclaimed photographer, a bit of a playboy who's used to using his looks to get ahead. And this one is not a tenant, but is a character that we get to know quite a bit about in the story, is Ho Se-shun. He is a rich, handsome friend of Shen Hong, the fitness trainer, who starts spending time with the group after he strikes up a friendship with Zhang Yuan. So those are all the characters in the book, and like I said, I really did enjoy getting to know every single one of them. I have notes here, so I'm looking at it. Another thing I really enjoyed about reading it was that right from the start, every single one of them treated each other as friends. But I think that's something you expect from men as a whole. They just vibe with each other right off the bat. There is no competition to speak of, excuse me. And I guess they just take life much easier than other people, and their friendship just hit it off right from the start. There is barely any tension. They hung out with each other a lot, and I honestly enjoyed all of their separate interactions, but also as a group. As a group, actually, they shined together mostly as a group. I loved their interactions overall as a group, and I think at its core, even though this is a story where Zhang Yuan is trying to become a writer, the story is leaning more towards male friendships and their openness and vulnerability with each other, even though at some point there are lies that they've told to each other. Some, I think other characters have started to realize like, oh, he wasn't being completely honest about this, but they didn't make it a big deal after they realized that, which is another thing that I really liked about it. But yeah, it was an enjoyable read. I don't even know if I'm doing a great job of talking about my overall experience, so I will move to the question cards from my book club kit that I said I was going to use. So the characters change and develop throughout the story. I think I've already talked about that a little bit. They did change and develop throughout the story, most of them for the better, and I like that the direction that the author is taking with their character growth. Which character did you connect with the most? Although I connected with a lot of them in different ways, right now I'll say that the character I connected with the most, that also happens to be my favorite character right now, is going to be Yan Jun. And the reason for that is because he is very hardworking, and he finds himself in a situation that he wasn't in control of, but he's one of those people that just automatically moved into the role of what he determined he needed to do without necessarily panicking or trying to look for other ways out of the situation. With his brother and sister-in-law passing away, he was the next person who was going to take care of his niece, and he didn't want her to end up in the foster care system. So he automatically just took over taking care of her, regardless of how stressful it has been. His life by itself hasn't been a very easy one. His job isn't that great, and you can just tell that day-to-day life has been very, very stressful for him. But with the addition of all the other members of the dorm, I think he's starting to see a lot more hope in his day-to-day life and things that he wants for himself in the future as well. The next question is, did this book evoke any strong feelings for you? I wouldn't say any particularly strong feelings, but one feeling that did stick with me is that the feeling of having a community that has a positive effect on your life as a whole is something that has stood out to me in the way the story was written so far, and I really, really love the way that's been written. My favorite part of the book will be towards the end. They decided to go to a hot springs, I think it was like a 3-day 2-night stay at a hot spring over the course of the New Year holiday. And there was a point where they were playing, I can't remember what exactly they were playing, but they started talking about like each other's sexual kinks. It was so funny, but I also appreciated how open they were with each other without making it overly sexual, which is another thing I actually really, really enjoyed about this book. The author has approached it in a way where they're open with each other sexually and personally without making it seem like this very perverse thing. These are things that you should feel comfortable talking about with each other, not because you're trying to overly sexualize the conversation, but because it's just a part of your life, and it's good to know what other people think about certain things and not keep sexuality so hush-hush and make it like a taboo topic. So that was one of my favorite parts of the book. For my least favorite part of the book, I wouldn't say there is a specific least favorite part of the book. There were some things that were said in the book that made me like raise an eyebrow, like, what is that supposed to mean? And one that immediately comes to mind, I'll see if I can find it, that I wrote a note on immediately, was very early on in the book actually. This is on the 12th page, and it's talking about Zhang Yuan's sexuality. The paragraph says, the absence of his father when he was growing up left him with a sense of insecurity, and the way his parents had interacted made him instinctively keep his distance from heterosexual relationships. And right by that paragraph, I just have a note saying, is this suggesting that he's gay because of his parents? Which I can definitely see some people drawing that conclusion, or certain cultures that struggle with homosexuality drawing that conclusion. I don't necessarily think that this is what the author himself believes. Maybe it's just a way of setting up the way culturally homosexuality is viewed in the story, but that was something that gave me a little bit of an eyebrow raise. I wouldn't necessarily call it my least favorite part of the book or anything. And for the last two questions, would you recommend this book or would you read another book by the same author? Seeing as this is my second book by the same author and I've already picked up the first volume or pre-ordered the first volume of Dingai Fusheng Records, I think it's safe to say that I do plan to read another book from this author. I do enjoy his writing a whole lot, and yes, I will recommend this book. It's a really easy to get into modern setting dame novel, and I think it's meant to be a really short one. At the moment, Seven Seas has it listed for 2 volumes, and it was honestly a very, very easy read. So yeah, I will recommend it. So that is my final review on the book. Have you read it? Do you plan to read it? I think the only question that I'll have for people who have read it will be, are there specific pairings that you would like to see couple-wise for all the characters in the novel? Are there people that you think are going to get together or that you want to get together? Personally, I think Zhang Yuan and Yuanjun are going to be really good together, and I would like for them to be endgame. But regardless of where the author plans to take the story, I'm open to how he wraps up the novel as a whole. But that was my final review of Riverbay Road Men's Dormitory. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Whatever day you find yourself watching this, make it a great one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.